The members of the opposition, I told you here on the media that they will never boycott parliament. These members of parliament, they are given free lunch.
So, I mean, man, you can get more serious than you have been today. And I should inform the country, like the way I said.
You can get more serious than you've been today. I love that.
Tell me a law that tells the head of state to bring SFC in parliament. So what do you want me to do? You saw the other time when it came to the UPDF amendment, we decided to leave because we can no longer handle the humiliation and the beating in parliament to also get the other part of it. So never come here and allege that people come here, to shout on TV. It is also being too micro and, running short of how to bring out issues. I should come on board in the line of politics, and for me, I had a different picture. I used to respect the kind of Dombo. Whenever I just used to see him on TV, I had never met him. I only had an opportunity to meet him when I came to parliament. We used to respect them. You see him, well-dressed, and you would think the man is a man of integrity.
Well-dressed, and you'd think he's a man of integrity until I started working with him. That's what she's trying to say. He has no integrity. Integrity and Dombo cannot be in one sentence.
Now, they used to think that when you see tear gas people being tear gassed when Bobi Wine is moving around, they used to think that there must have been chaos. There must have been violence. Somebody must have thrown stones to those policemen and the soldiers. But they witnessed all colors of the forces, blue, red, all the attires we are seeing in Zimbabwe. So, this is not for the opposition alone.
Exactly.
It's not Namugga to get bothered. The country should rise up and know this is a gun against the people.
Exactly.
You're watching Mordecai Marissa Live Political Commentary. Please consider subscribing to help grow Uganda's Voices of Struggle ecosystem. Thank you.
I cannot appreciate you enough for using your valuable time to always go on social media, break down things for people.
Hey folks, happy Sunday. Welcome to the show. My name is Mordecai Marissa, and I hope you're having a great time. Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to be looking at the submissions of Honorable Gorretti Namugga. She was hosted on UBC's Behind the Headlines show alongside other folks like Yusuf Serunkuma, Sarah Birete, and NRM's Communications Director, Emmanuel Dombo. Now, what she did was eviscerate, was to dismantle, to obliterate, to shut down, use any term you want to use there, to shut down the deflection, the gaslighting, the projection, the utter lies and manipulation, the deflection of Emmanuel Dombo. They were discussing NRM's electoral processes and the violence and money-driven SEC elections. Let's go and listen to what she has to say.
And I also congratulate those that have really managed to stand in these turbulent waters. Because when you look at, I should say, Honorable Kadaga said the humiliation that some of these ones go through, much as the Honorable Dombo has told you, he awards himself for an 80% performance in what has transpired. And he has told you, because there is no evidence, it's just an allegation. But one would wonder, because it tells you it has been a live broadcast, everyone sees what is happening in Kororo, and this is the very reason as to why some of us who are not delegates to the party can comment to them. So I should say, this election communicates a lot, especially to the young generation, because we've never seen people who call themselves veterans in this game cry tears.
I think you should be you must be very shameless to be Dombo and to award yourself 80% when it comes to your analysis on what went down in the NRM youth elections, NRM primaries, SEC. I mean, what, 80%?
When you look at the comments of Mike Mukura, I think he withdrew with a lot of, with a lot of, I should say, anger, because somebody might assume that it's because it was out of goodwill and wish for the good of the party, but it wasn't the case. When you look at the likes of Chiwanda, he withdrew because he did not have the money to sustain the whole process. When you look at the youth who were complaining about, we've been here for quite some time. Some of our colleagues have gone back as delegates because they did not, they have not been given enough resources to keep around. All the monetization of politics that has taken place in Kororo communicates a lot to the future generation. I saw who will say, you know, whatever has transpired, whoever is part of this game, our generation cannot sort out this mess. We only leave it to the generation to come. And for
Imagine that. If a leader says, hey, we cannot do it, we're going to leave it for the generations to come. What that actually communicates is we're going to mess up this country and hoping that, you know, the next generation will fix this mess. I mean, these words coming out from a leader. Oh, let's make our mess and leave it for the next generations. Are you kidding me?
him, for Dombo tells you, you know, NRM, we are trying to show the public that it's not about money. Anyone can come and join the race.
That's really shameless gaslighting.
But the country has watched. And even the chairman of, I should say, of the party. You know, sometimes some of us are hesitant to mentioning NRM as a political party. At times it seems to be a person is NGO. But I should say, for respect, a party. The chairman himself came out and said,
an NGO.
I have never seen this corruption. The corruption that has been seen in this current dedication.
Now, isn't that really shameful? If Emmanuel Dombo awards himself 80% with his analysis on what went down in these electoral processes, yet the the president or chairperson of the NRM says, I have never seen this type of corruption. Even some of its senior leaders are echoing the same sentiments. Then you wonder where Dombo gets the gallant temerity to award himself 80%.
Conference has never been seen somewhere else. And actually, for me, I was wondering, why couldn't he call off all these circus? Because when you look at the mess that is in Kororo, and the president also not says that, you know, a lot has gone wrong, instead of calling off a few positions, say for the Entrepreneurs League and those that were stayed for the youth, but I think he has been announced, Tanga's son, much as the youth complained, and they were like, really, this is conflict of interest. How can you stand for such an election and you are the one to announce? Even if he had all that support, it's hard for the public to believe that, you know, Tango Doi can allow a son to lose an election. So this communicates volumes to the country in regard to, number one, the sustainability of politics when it comes to those that don't have resources. People have been telling you who said he has never seen sacks of money moving around. And all this has happened around Kololo. So for us who have just joined the politics, one would wonder whether we can keep up with the pace. And if this has been done in the NRM, you know, this happened in the youth elections, you saw, and they were like, you know, the opposition, you were crying all around, but you failed to mobilize. We said, you'll see it. It came to their primaries. They had 421 petitions. That was a communication that in almost every district, at least they did not have less than 4 petitions in every district.
421, wow.
So one wonders, what is going to happen in the 2021 election? Don't you think this is going to, first of all, it is going to cause fear to those who had, you know, come out to express interest in different positions? Number two, for those who felt they would have the guts to stand against the big shots in the party and they have won, do you think they can come and stand against them again? So the youth are going to be intimidated more. You heard the Honorable Kadaga say, you know, these elections have been, full of intimidation, money everywhere, you know, the rigging, change of registers. So for us who have just come on board in the line of politics, and without, for me, I had a different picture. I used to respect the kind of Dombo. You know, whenever I just used to see him on TV, I had never met him. I only had an opportunity to meet him when I came to...
Used, that's past tense. I used to respect Emmanuel Dombo. That says, I don't respect him anymore when you come closer to them. And I think it was Barack Obama's statements. I think I've always played you that video. You know, these folks, you have this immense respect for them when you're looking at them from afar. But get to them and listen to what they say. And in this modern age, you don't even have to get close. You have to pay attention to their speeches, to their submissions on shows like this one. If a man like Emmanuel Dombo is not willing to call out the bribery, more especially the perpetrators, the culprits of this bribery, then really he seizes an opportunity for me to listen to him.
Parliament, we used to respect them. You see him, you know, well dressed, and you would think the man is a man of integrity everywhere.
We're going to go back and listen to this, what she says.
On board in line, the line of politics, and without, for me, I had a different picture. I used to respect the kind of Dombo. You know, whenever I just used to see him on TV, I had never met him. I only had an opportunity to meet him when I came to Parliament. We used to respect them. You see him, you know, well dressed, and you would think the man is a man of integrity.
Well dressed, and you'd think he's a man of integrity until I started working with him. That's what she's trying to say. He has no integrity. Integrity and Dombo cannot be in one sentence.
Everywhere, but only to join a club of politicians, a club of leaders. And how I wish the country out there would see what happens internally in some of these events.
Now, that's what Barack Obama said. When you get close to his folks and understand how they operate, their mind, you know, you'd wonder if these folks are willing to come on these shows and display some sort of niceties and whitewash some of the illegalities that go on in their kinds of like NRM electoral process, then what do you think? What language do they use behind in places where there are no cameras? Because even in that trying of to whitewash all these criminality and illegalities, sometimes they end up embarrassing themselves. Then what happens if they don't have anyone watching them? I wonder.
One would wonder whether we have leaders.
Okay. Thank you. Let me come to Yusuf. Yusuf, it's good to have you. You made an appearance here.
Okay, let's go on and listen. I mean, it was a 2-hour show, so you know I'm not going to have you here listen for 2 hours. I was paying attention to Honorable Gorretti, and I watched this show so that you don't have to. Okay, let's go here. She made some wonderful submission, and then we're going to listen to Sarah Biret. She asked a very important question to Emmanuel Dombo.
And Namugga, when you see the scenes in Kololo, and you are going to be a player in the national elections, both as a national unity platform, but also as a political player in Mawogola South, does this concern you? Because this can play out in the national scene.
Actually, it should not be a concern of Namugga alone. But you've seen even our own colleagues in the national resistance movement. You saw how they came up to petition their own party when they were handling their elections in primaries of the NRM. So people used to think that the violence only takes place with the side of the opposition. But this is the time when they witnessed this in their own home. Because they were never used to all this manipulation, or the intimidation, or the violence. They had never seen guns. I can give you a good example in Mawogola, Remiaga, where you saw the Sechkubo and Rashande. The people of Mawogola, we call them Abanyabuzari and Abanyamukago. They had never, those people, those milk takers had never seen guns. They had never seen their children being killed in front of them. Now, they used to think that when you see tear gas people being tear gassed when Bobi Wine is moving around, they used to think that there must have been chaos. There must have been violence. Somebody must have thrown stones to those policemen and the soldiers. But they witnessed all colors of the forces, blue, red, all the attires we are seeing in Zimbabwe. So,
and I think she raised a very important point, and that's the same thing I recently made a comment about. It's very easy to look at the politics in Uganda and have a conclusion in your mind that, you know, these are two forces fighting each other, the opposition and the NRM. But you really have to take a back step and look, make a summary of what went down in Kawempe North by-election of Council Nalukola. It came to a point where it wasn't even about opposition and the NRM. Now they were deliberately targeting members of the press. So every time I see a member of the press, like that gentleman, the host, asking Honorable Namugga, how you prepared as someone who has a bachelor's degree in mass communication and journalism, I ask the same question. How you prepared? Because if these folks were willing to beat up journalists on camera, abduct them, beat them up, and even have a minister, Barambaro Gahara, go on a national television on Sanyuka TV and say, we didn't beat you. NRM had, NUP had trucks of rocks, throwing them at people, like lying people in broad daylight. What's going to happen? If, for example, you are a journalist who is covering a certain area and you get yourself some exclusive footage and they don't want you to show it to the public, what's going to happen? And what if they find out that, probably you had an extra SD card where you would keep, or external drive where you'd keep your content, and, much as they tell you to delete whatever you have on your camera, and you do, but they find out that probably you are keeping some of your other content on another card. What are they going to do? So it's not about NRM and the NUP or government and the opposition. It is all of us. I mean, you've seen how the government has targeted non-government organizations. This question should be asked. It's not about NRM and NUP. No.
This is not for the opposition alone.
Exactly.
It's not Namugga to get bothered. The country should rise up and know this is a gun against the people.
Exactly.
They are fighting the will of the people. The people of Remiaga told you, we were ready to gun line up behind Sechikubo. But that intimidation alone. And this also happened in Kawempe. Remember, Dr.
And you want to see that that's what it is, because people were, much as I don't really care about the victory of Theodore Sechikubo, but people loved Sechikubo. But because Museveni had decided to endorse Rwashande, there was no amount of transparency, fair play, and all requirements to make sure that the process is legal, is right, that would actually make Sechikubo win. So, shouldn't this concern all of us? Or because it is NRM, we don't even care? Because, they killed an NRM folks, we don't care. No, it should concern all of us. As was it Martin Luther King Jr., who said that a threat to violence somewhere, a threat to justice anywhere or somewhere is a threat to injustice everywhere.
When we are complaining about the violence that there was in the Kawempe elections, our colleagues in the NRM never bothered. And when we came up on the floor of parliament to breang out the facts, everyone was like, no, that is the opposition. That is how they, they manipulate. But this time around, it comes with open hands to their own. Their own, as Dombo told you, he awards himself an 80%. And good enough for him is lucky. I don't know whether he even will ever come back for elections. But how I wish he joined again. I want the Dombos also to face the wrath that we go through. I want to inform the country that we've always told you that we no longer have elections. Actually, for me, when you speak about elections, one wonders. And Dombo will ask you, for you, Namugga, how did you get here?
They usually use that as some sort of gotcha, rebuttal. If you think elections are not free and fair, how did you get to parliament? She responds,
I wish you also come and see how I got here. Because during his days, it used to be a bit easy. You saw during the 2021 elections, up to now, our comrades were killed, 59. They have never been accounted for. And
that's the number from the government. There were more than 59.
And you want to give me information?
Even if I went back to elections to try to find out how you got there, I will not become you. I don't know what assets you have at your disposal.
No, definitely.
Definitely.
No, I'm speaking about the environment. For us, by the way, before you go for an election, before you even think about money, think about the environment that there is for every one of us to participate.
Exactly.
Because
do you realize, do you know how the mind of the member of the NRM operates? He was sort of responding to, hey, how I wish you run again and try to see how things work now, currently. And the only response from Emmanuel Dombo is about, I don't know how many assets you have at your disposal. Again, it goes back to money. Like money, politics has been monetized or commercialized to the extent that you really have to fight so hard to raise a point that doesn't have anything to do with money. Imagine, just a simple rebuttal is immediately rushing to money. the assets you have on what? And then she says, exactly. It should be about the environment, the processes, under what circumstances, what's the environment that has been built for us to play or practice politics. These people, my.
We allege or we assume that this is a free and fair election. Before you speak about the money, the environment should be conducive for everyone to participate. We all know we operate under multi-party dispensation, but this comes at a time. You saw, let me give you an example of the Iganga case. Yeah, the other day on Monday, when we went to open up our offices in Iganga, we never informed everyone because we knew the moment they get aware of that event, it would never take place. But you see, the moment we got there, they had to mobilize. People were...
You know, those are the kind of things she's raising. That why would a party president have to lie to his own members that, hey, we're headed in this direction, yet he knows they're taking an opposite direction because he knows spies, thugs, ill-intended folks are within.
Beaten, tear gas was brought out. So when you speak to issues of elections, issues of democracy in this country, people used to think the way you've asked that it's for the Namuggas, it is for the Gorreth, it is for the Dombo. Now it has come to be a concern, a matter, actually, it's a matter of national importance. Whoever is interested in the leadership of this country should also come to know that it is now our duty, everyone's duty, to start bringing out these issues openly. We must have an open debate about the trend of events and where we see this country before the 2026. The NRM elections that you've seen, he has called it a circus, and that is true. These have not been elections. But whatever you've observed in Kororo, even the head of that institution called NRM, I doubt whether he will sleep tonight. He must have sleepless nights today. Because I don't know what is lingering within him and how he has observed everything happens. But I credit the Right Honorable Kadaga. You know, whatever she brought out, I knew. She was aware that she's not going to win. She was aware that because of all the manipulation, all the vote rigging, all the money that has been given out, she knew she was not going to win. But what she did, if I'm to use the current language, she has exposed the NRM very, very properly. She has exposed them. Because she was like, if you have been given an iPad, you were chairperson of a district, you go back with the iPad. Do you think you'll ever go to anybody and solicit for a free vote? You've been given an iPad. You've been given a phone. And when you get back to wherever you came from, everyone is aware that you were in Kororo to share something. So for you, if you go down to ask for an election from anybody, would you think people would accept any vote without money? So that means this has cascaded down at all positions, whether you saw sometime back when people were asking, but why do else-one chairpersons invest a lot of money in politics? We saw chairpersons of villages, else-one, somebody using these many cars, somebody putting up posters, and one would wonder how, if you invest that so much money in an else-one election, what are you going to get out of it? So this comes back to every one of us. It's high time we got concerned about the affairs of this country in regard to leadership. And if I may ask colleagues, my fellow panelists, do you think time to come we shall remain accountable to the people? Because this has become a transaction. It's a business.
Wow. Now, that's a very, very, very beautiful point. Look, there's no way members of parliament or leaders who are elected in any political office are going to be accounted to their people. They will be accountable to whoever funds them. The amount of money, because what I heard, some of them even had to take loans from banks to invest in these elections. I mean, what are you up to? In the end, you won't be accountable to your constituents. You'll be accountable to whoever funded your campaign. And in regards to the Museveni cabal of elites and thieves, they're accountable to Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, not the people. That's why Anita Among was extremely confident, saying that, hey, we are winning this. And with what? With 98%, she won by 92%. She knew, just like Namugga says, Honorable Kadaga knew she was losing, but probably she took it as her last chance of exposing the regime. But too late or too late.
Come to Honorable Dombo. Where did you lose it as the National Resistance Movement?
I don't want to listen to Emmanuel Dombo. He does a lot of deflection and complete lies, and I don't think I'm here for the lies. Let's go here to Honorable Namugga once again. I think they're coming to the end of the show.
Versus the money to
the Ugandans to discuss these things. A person, or you are part of the legislature. When you look at your leader now, the second national vice chairperson of the NRM, and if I'm to go by anything that Dr. Sarah said, she will be vying to get into caucus to discuss some of these things, or SEC to discuss these things. Where does it leave you, like the legislature, another arm of government? Where does it leave you in trying to pass things that are benefiting the Ugandans?
First of all, I want to a little react to Dr. Salah's submission in regard to issues of governance versus the money and the budget. You know, one of the areas where government spends a lot of money and an area that takes or consumes the biggest percentage of our budget is governance and security. And when one sees the direction that we are taking in the line of governance, we doubt the value for the money that we do spend in the line of governance. And governments seem we seem to have invested much in governance. But when you look at the report, the current report on the Human Capital Review report, it's only 39% of each of us's potential that has been put to use, meaning that close to 61% of your potential has not been tapped into.
Now
so
that's really worrying. 39% only.
And the other things about that narrative that, you know, MPs, being a member of parliament is the biggest business one can invest in. You know, I bet, colleagues, when Museveni president was in Kololo, he said members of parliament don't like
Museveni president. She doesn't want to refer to him as president.
The citizens of this country. They just move around the corridors looking for money. They have never liked them. He has made that statement. I don't know whether you've seen it go viral on social media. He said members of parliament are very useless. Instead of, you know, coming to parliament to legislate for the people, they just look for money all around. And colleagues, if you do observe members of parliament after exit or after end of their term in parliament, just do a research on how many of them survive out there. So I would like to inform the country that Mr. Museveni sometime back during the State of the Nation address said that members of parliament have turned themselves into government. And I want to ask every one of us who can afford and who would love to turn himself or herself into government. None of us can afford it. But because there is a gap somewhere, you find MPs buy ambulances, you find MPs supply drugs in hospitals, you find literally MPs doing activities that ought to have been done by government.
Brilliant. I love this. Hey, look, when I was in Uganda, I used to have a little NGO, Spreading Wings International, and we used to do some charity campaigns, you know, and we'd go help out people, donate to them stuff, bed sheets and shoes and clothes and food and stuff like that. And my little mind was, you know, I started this shortly after my high school, was maybe I can fight poverty. This is my little mind, small mind then. But you realize if you try to, now that I'm actually paying attention to what she says, you realize that my inspiration was deeply rooted in the failure of my government. Much as I didn't know, because I would wonder if Mordecai can use little resources I had by then to solicit shoes and clothes, old shoes and old clothes and food and take it to people. How about my government? Now that I am old enough to see the failure of the Museveni misadministration, I'm able to really confirm that it was a failure of my government. Because if they cannot put medicine in hospitals, if they cannot pay teachers and doctors or internees, if they cannot take care of the people in Karamoja and other places that are devastatingly in hunger, then what can they do? And you cannot say, hey, there's not enough money or resources. If you have Keleba Kanwanaho dishing out cash to whoever he chooses, not in millions, but in billions, then you know What we lack is political will. Gosh.
So I should say,
but you know where
the trend,
you know where the problem comes from.
Of course, it comes from the failure of the Museveni government.
you can.
I've been a member of parliament, and I know. You know, the challenge is that in a desire to undermine an incumbent, every aspirant promises to do things that the incumbent is not doing, and this is
that's how it should be. Hey, vote for me because I'm gonna do what this man has failed to do. Hello?
Promise even before they become members of parliament. They say he should have brought an ambulance. If I go there, I'll bring an ambulance.
Yeah. Where's this man? Where's his mind? Because the government has failed to provide these services. That's why I promised to do that. And now, hey, do I want my members of parliament to promise that to me? Absolutely not. But what do you expect? When they cannot have those services, people are going to go to their leader. They look at their leader as the solution. And in the end, you're going to have charlatans, opportunistic folks, and people who are just self-seekers saying, hey, vote for me, I'm going to do you this. Please understand, why do these members of parliament make those kind of promises to their own people? Because the government has failed. So these poor people, disenfranchised, they look at members of parliament as their solutions. What's wrong with Dombo?
They even buy ambulances, some of them.
Yes, because the government has failed.
They become members of parliament.
Thank you for that information.
Totally distorting the political arena themselves.
I want to inform.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with this Dombo guy? Totally distorting the political arena themselves.
The Honorable Dombo, that people buy ambulances because they are not in existence. Otherwise, if an ambulance was in place, why do I buy it? I mean, no. It is because there is a gap to be filled. Yes. He should accept, but that out of a crisis, out of a crisis, public crisis, people come in to do what government ought to have done. So thank you. Look, I don't. If I was in Uganda and I had a political aspirant running for any office, and they'd be like, hey, vote for me, I'll construct a road. I'll be like, hey, you don't have to promise that. That's not your job. But my understanding is not the same as other folks. We're talking about people who cannot treat primitive and ignorant. What do you expect? And then when I talk about primitivity and ignorance, again, it goes back to the Museveni regime. This is deliberate. Making sure that you control an ignorant, primitive populace. When it goes to service delivery, we should accept government has not done much. That is why MPs have ended up carrying out activities that ought to have been done by government. And Sarah, you need to investigate on this. For me, I find it as a weakness on our part. Because if we did our part as MPs, there is no reason as to why we would have gone into issues of distributing money to people. Just imagine if people got the hospital care that they ought to look out for, if we worked on the roads, if we supplied the water, if we gave the basics that people would want, do you think giving out money would have been an issue in the current environment? But because we look out for the cheapest ways of quick fixing, and we've ended ourselves into that trap of serving and doing activities that ought to have been done by government. When it comes when I come back to the legislature, I've always told you, Parliament has never been independent. Even before becoming a member of SEC for the Right Honourable Anita Mong, you have seen every time we come to moments of budgeting, every financial year, the very head of state calls these different committees to State House. When it comes to times of passing bills in Parliament, you saw the coffee bill. In the morning, you have a different report. Afternoon, a different report. In the night, the report changes. The next day, you have a different report. Because the head of state has called members of Parliament of the NRM in State House to give a direction on how he wants things to flow. You saw the UPDF amendment bill. People started in a very good way, independent. I mean, with a lot of reasoning. It ended somewhere in a different corner. You remember the saga of rationalization of entities, agencies, where people started to allege that, UNRWA has given money, so-and-so has given money. But all this, you cannot start to allege that Parliament...
I mean, what you read from her voice is the frustration. Like she's super frustrated.
...has ever been independent. Never. directives have always been, given from State House. You saw, I wrote the Right Honorable Anita Mong's submission when she was today in Kololo. She said, I thank the head of state for entrusting me. I thank you, Mr. President, for entrusting me with the speakership. I have done my part without antagonizing my chairman and my party. But these come from a speaker. You've not antagonized your chairman, you've not antagonized your party. Then really, can one allege that we have an independent parliament?
No.
So it all comes back to every one of us to get concerned. If we say that we have these three arms of government, the doctrine of separation of powers, have we ever witnessed in any angle an independent parliament? You remember the time when the SFC came to parliament and it beat members of the opposition, and the speaker had to run away and eventually come back. When she was asked, when we formed her that, Speaker, in your absence, the SFC were in this house beating people, and the videos went viral. She said, hey, are you sure the SFC has been here? I'm not
Kadaga. Fake.
not aware. I'm not aware that somebody, we had an intruder in house. But I mean, that happened.
Honorable Namugga, if you as a member of parliament are lamenting, then what should Ugandans do?
No one is lamenting. Because, let me ask.
Because you are the representatives of the people.
We do represent.
Absolutely.
My dear, you do represent the people, but you must also appreciate the power of numbers. You know they have over 300.
Her lamentations are meant to expose the death of a nation. That's what it should expose.
359 members, actually even beyond. And you also know that because the head of state, with the virtue of the powers given to the head of state, to some extent he misuses his powers. Tell me a law that tells the head of state to bring SFC in parliament. So what do you want me to do? You saw the other time when it came to the UPDF amendment, we decided to leave because we can no longer handle the humiliation and the beating in parliament. It's not, you note down, you'll submit on your part. It's not that we are lamenting. But I mean the crisis, you remember it was in the 10th parliament, when people were beaten. What did you want them to do as members of parliament? I've told you reports change day and night. What do you want me to do? You've also observed this. So I should inform the country.
What she's trying to say, because the host is asking a question, hey, you sound like you're lamenting and you can't do anything. But she's saying, what do you want me to do? My job now is to lament to the nation so that they're able to receive these statements and rise up in unison to get rid of the Museveni regime. Simple.
This crisis concerns...
Is walking out the only option you have?
No, but on several occasions we've...
Is walking out the only option you have? What's wrong with you, sir? They've told you in situations where they didn't walk out, they were beaten by thugs, jackbooted thugs of the Special Force Command. Other situations, they've been dominated. They're trying other ways. So it's if you walk out, what other ways? In other times, they've tried to vote only to be cheated. I mean, what are you even asking? Have you been following the events in our country?
Remained and at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense. Why do we become party to? Why do we help them walk the journey to making laws that are against the people? What do you want us to do? So I should inform the country that whatever is happening in parliament is so absurd. We are also concerned as leaders, and everyone knows we always allege that this is a people's parliament. Actually, if there is an institution that a common person can lean to, it would have been parliament, because every one of us there alleges that we are representatives of the people. Meaning that we ought to have, legislated, we ought to have budgeted or appropriated on behalf and in the interest of the people of this republic. And
now, listen to what Dombo says here as a rebuttal.
Do you stop talking and start walking?
About corruption.
Timothy, the issue of corruption is a very big vice that must be dealt with. Without
gibberish now, it's going to be all over the place.
Determination. But corruption keeps changing. That's why when our friends were in parliament, they approved the money for Honorable Mpuga. But they turned against him. But until that,
Who approved? There was a question of who approved and not. Some members of parliament don't even know about that.
that became public, nobody would believe that Honorable Puga could be accused of benefiting from such. Even when he had taken the money and he was asked, he was denying. But his money, which had been approved by these people here. But they always come
Liar.
here talk about corruption because they want to impress the public. The members of the opposition, I told you here on the media that they will never boycott parliament. These members of parliament, they are given free lunch. When teachers are not given free lunch.
Gosh, what's wrong with these people? These members of parliament are given free lunch. Imagine. I think the next point from his mouth is going to be these members of parliament actually sit in comfortable seats in parliament. Because now, how do you reduce the topic of corruption in a country to members of parliament receiving or getting lunch? Look, I don't care about the emoluments. I don't care about the amount of money these folks are paid as long as they are legally budgeted. I don't really care. They're asking about, oh my God, what's wrong with these people?
I was in parliament, I was never given a free lunch. They have never boycotted going for games because they earn allowances. They have never boycotted areas where they earn money. Even when they walked out on the committee of disco report of defense, they went and earned the money in the committee report first, the allowances. And when they came to parliament, because in parliament you don't earn by signing, that's why they walk out.
This is nauseating. Let's go here. I can't help but.
Because she was a born again, was chairing Public Accounts Committee, they brought for her money in parliament.
Let's go here to her conclusion.
To keep power.
I can respond to that. It depends on what the confession
She responded
was,
to him.
what she was intending.
Your parting shots.
I should first of all say it is very regrettable of my senior colleague Dombo. He was in parliament for 20 years. To really be as micro as alleging members of parliament take free lunch.
Imagine
I mean,
that.
that is being too micro.
Exactly.
And I should inform the country.
Too petty, too trivial. Lunch? Imagine discussing this cancer to our nation called corruption, and you'd be like, members of parliament eat free lunch.
When you look at the Auditor General's report, I'm a deputy chairperson, Park Central.
I am sorry, but
For the last 5 years, NRM has only implemented 31% of the Auditor General's recommendations, 31% of the Treasury memoranda. So, I mean, man, you can't get more serious than you have been today. And I should inform the country, like the way I said.
you can get more serious than you've been today. I love that. Come on.
This circus and the way we are taking leadership too light, to the extent that as a leader you can come on TV and say, you people are just making noise here. The reason as to why we are here is to have a public debate on the state of events in the country. It's not that we don't have spaces for where to discuss the things. He knows. We go to parliament and put this on table, but this is the only space the nation has to also get the other part of it. So never come here and allege that people come here, to shout on TV. It is also being too micro and, running short of how to bring out issues. I should say leadership means a lot to us as a country. And as
Like, she's very frustrated, you can tell from her submission and her face and the tone of her voice and speech. Ladies and gentlemen, Uganda is sick. And we're suffering from one of our other problems that, diseases we're suffering from is called lack of leadership. There's a vacuum, leadership vacuum. If you have Emmanuel Dombo, acting as the spokesperson or the communications director of the NRM, you wonder, is this the best they can offer? Is this all they have? But that's it. It doesn't get better. Better than that. That's all they have. So it's up to you to prepare the next generation. But before we do, to clean ourselves and offer ourselves for leadership. The Museveni cartel cannot. It cannot revamp itself. It cannot evolve. It cannot. It is an outfit that should be disbanded, that should be gotten rid of. How? By voting it out. Period. So get ready for the 2021 protest vote and vote for those men and women of valor, men and women of substance, men and women of principles and values. My name is Mordecai Murisa. I know it's a very long video, but I hope you enjoyed it. Till we catch up again. Bye-bye.
Did you enjoy what you just watched?
I'm sure they did.
I'm going to guess that you did. How about you consider subscribing to Mordecai Marissa Live YouTube channel? Thank you.